Show. It has been a few weeks since I've been here in the studio, so I am just extremely thankful to be here. I'm thankful for each and every one of you for continuing to support me and support the Raymond Hall Show. For our new listeners, I'll just repeat a few things. That the Raymond Hall Show is a weekly broadcast, and our broadcast, our topic is about service. We talk about the vital importance that service is to a free and democratic society. Our banner is service is a different conversation, and that simply means that we can all have a dialogue and we can talk about things, but service is a different conversation because it requires you to put some service in. And the point of service is that as you give service, other people are served. And as other people are served, then they will have an understanding of the benefits and the value of service. And they too will pick up the banner with their own talents and their own time and give service. We have been reminded today of, since November, since his passing, we've been reminding of one of the true giants. There's no perfect person on this earth, but we're talking about the 41st president of the United States, George Herbert Walker Bush. And we here at the Raymond Hall Show, we definitely want to recognize the 41st president of the United States. He passed on, and his life of service just speaks and gives examples of service. So we know a lot of people looked at it on television. We know a lot of people looked at it on your smart devices and those kind of things. But that's what this show is about. Service is something that says, I'm going to commit myself to something that is going to be a benefit to others. And unlike how we see so much division and partisanship. Now, I'm not saying that any of it is a bad thing, because if someone goes too far, you have to take a stand, and you have to say, well, this is where I'll take my stand. So you will have some divisions, and hopefully from the division, something greater will come. But here is a person that when you look at their record of service, you look at the record of service, 41st president. These are just some of the things that he did. 41st president of the United States, Navy pilot, combat pilot in World War II. And when they shot his plane down, he was rescued by a submarine. And that didn't stop him. He continued to serve. Because of the 41st president, George Herbert Walker Bush, we have and see, this is when you hear me talk about service is something that you give that help people you don't know. Your job helps you, your family, and that kind of thing. But service is something that you give for people that you don't know. Here is a living example. As president, he put his hand to the bill to sign into law and gave us the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, the Americans with Disabilities Act has helped. Look at the number of people that it has helped and still is helping today, because your American with Disabilities Act is what has given you handrail assistance in certain places and in public places and those kind of things. It has given you curb access for persons who are in wheelchairs or on walkers and just need that lower curb. this is the kind of service that was given at a time, and he spoke about the many points of light in a sky. These are the many points of light because through him and the American Disabilities Act, so many people were able to get out and move around. Now, if that doesn't move you, he put his hand to an act that helps all of us. That's the Clean Air Act. It just doesn't stop at clean air. It included the waters. It included things inside of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And because of the 41st President of the United States giving service inside of the position that he held as the 41st President, he said, as a person, I am going to lend my hand to service so others will benefit. So since then, look at how much air quality and water quality and all of those things have been improved. And we have a standard by which they must be maintained. So service is something that this president gave that benefited us all. Also, you had NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. This is a working agreement that allowed goods to flow into our country and allowed our country to produce goods that flowed into others' country. At one time, the North American Free Trade Agreement had the largest trading bloc that it was. So here again, this has to do with service. I'm taking the time to remember the contributions of the 41st President of the United States, George Herbert Walker Bush, because we hear every week, we talk about service is a different conversation. And here you see his service served all. It's not that it served, the Clean Water Act doesn't serve one group of people and doesn't serve someone else. The Americans with Disabilities Act doesn't serve one person and doesn't serve. It serves all persons that are affected with a disability. I heard something the other day. They talked about the reunification of Germany. And this was President Obama. He said that he was a humble man because with the reunification of Germany, he didn't spike the football. And at first that just went over me because spike the football. But they're not talking about the game of football here. They're talking about the football is a case or was a case that was carried around, and it had all of the armaments to where you could arm or launch a strike from a suitcase. And spiking it, I would imagine, means to put it in some kind of preparation or level where it's a little more heightened attention because of what was going on with the reunification of Germany and what was going on in the world. So he was, because of his abilities and because of his knowledge and because of his well-being for other human beings and for this nation and for his family, he understood the awesome power that he had, but he didn't just jump to, we need to raise an alert or do something like that. With that position, it requires responsibility. And part of his service was to show us his level of responsibility and maturity in handling that office. He was the ambassador for China. We trade with China. At one time, China was an arch enemy. You didn't hear talking about trading with China. And to a degree today, they still are weary of some of China's behavior. You just saw today where someone got arrested and is being brought back to the United States to stand trial for some of the things that are being alleged against them for what China is doing. We're talking about service, the importance of service. Here is a person that served as president of the United States. And whether you were in the most affluent community in this nation, or whether you were in a community that was economically deprived, he afforded protections for all. The Americans with Disabilities Act. It's hard to breathe when you are living near a plant, and that plant is putting certain things into the air where you can't breathe and your children can't breathe and people can't go out. Well, this is now something of the past, or something that we have a standard to address it, all because of the Americans with Disabilities Act. As director of the Central Intelligence Agency, without the latest buzz, what do you want to call it? The talk that we hear going around now about what this agency does or what that agent doesn't do. We have agencies in this nation, and I'm not waving a flag and rah, rah, rah. I understand that there are many shortcomings of government agencies, especially upon minorities, especially upon economically deprived communities. But you do have agencies that are tasked with the responsibilities of making sure that this nation stays safe and free from attack. And as director of the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, that is a large task that must have the right person at the head of that agency in order to complete the task so this nation will remain safe. So here he served as director of the Central Intelligence Agency. I didn't know the president personally. It was interesting to see the people get up and talk about their personal interactions and responses with him. But what kept coming to me at each and every turn, whether they were talking military service, whether they were talking service in state government or service at the federal level or presidency, whether they were talking about him being a father or a husband, there always was that bell, that sounding bell of service. It's not just something that only a president can give. Each and every one of us have a talent where we are able to give service to, and the service that we give is a service that will reach far off into the future that should positively affect the lives of someone that has not yet been born. Whether it's a poem that you write, whether it's a student that you teach, and that student goes on, grows up, remembers you as their teacher and mentor, and go on to do something else and point back to you after they've accomplished certain things. Whether it's music, something that will allow people to sit and enjoy something from the arts, something from the creative heart and mind. All of us have a talent. And we have a classic example here with the 41st president of the benefits that come from us using our talents as a service instrument. There are many other accomplishments that he did. I'm sure that everybody has gone through those things, so we won't try to go to them here. I just thought that it was the correct thing for us to do here at the show, because this is an example of what service is about and how service speaks and how service benefits all of us. So as you take a fresh breath of air, or as you be thankful that somebody you know is able to navigate wheelchairs and those things and be more active through the Americans with Disabilities Act, whether you think about the reunification of Germany, just whatever you think about someone that actually gave service. And at the end of their life, people are still not only just talking about it, but they're getting a consciousness and an understanding of what service is and what it does through the life of the president of the 41st president of the United States of America. Well, it's a rainy day and a cold day here in Southern California. I usually like to tease you all and say it's a nice, beautiful, warm day here in Southern Cal, but we got a little rain and we got a little cold weather, and really we enjoy it. It's just a challenge. So on this cold and rainy day in sunny Southern California, this is the Raymond Hall Show, broadcasting to you from the iconic and historic community of Leimert Park here in Los Angeles. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue in a discussion of those persons who have given service and how their service continues to speak. We'll be right back. Thank you for tuning in to the Raymond Hall Show. Our vision here at the show, we talk about service, but, we have a vision here too. Our vision here at the show is that all communities will embrace service as a commitment to further strengthen the nation through service in their communities, that others will know service and serve. That's our vision. And the reason that we have that vision, it's not new. This is not something that Raymond Hall came up with. No, not at all. This is the vision that was far from the earliest times of this nation, from the earliest times of the African in America. Before you could say African American, the African, the slave in America. This was the vision then. To be clear about something now, we talked about the president and the 41st president, and we want to honor him. We want to be mindful and always be respectful. First of all, we want to be respectful of the office of the president. You have to keep things in the correct order. The office of the president doesn't change. Okay? Now, presidents are elected and change, but the integrity of the office of the president remains. Okay? So we always want to give attention to the office of the president, and then we pay attention to what a president does while they are in the office of the president. So we always want to be respectful there. But while the African was brought to the nation and in slavery, they are the ones that came up with the understanding of let me give service. Okay? I'll make it simple for you. As a slave, if you do not embrace service, you're going to do only that's required as a slave, and your whole focus will be to throw off the shackles of slavery. But what these men and women through these horrific conditions did was they gave service. How do you think those colonies had the strongest economy in the world? They said cotton was king. Who taught them to grow that cotton that would be world-class cotton? Slaves. And how did they do it? With their service. Same is true with tobacco and sugar. Look at it. We've had guests here to talk about how tobacco at one time was used like money. So we're talking about service today. Service, and this is not when we talk about here at the Raymond Hall Show that our vision is that all communities will embrace service as a commitment to further strengthen the nation through service in their communities, that others may benefit of their service and then pick up the thing and serve. And that's what these people did. They gave service so people will pick up that mantle, that understanding of service, and serve in their time so the nation will be made stronger. Now, as Americans, as neighbors, brothers, uncles, aunts, each one of us have talents. A big congratulations to the young people that got involved in politics and running for the first time. New Jersey, New York, California, all across the nation. They picked up the mantle of service and said, I can serve. And through the efforts of preparation, through the efforts of getting out the vote, and we want to thank each and every person who worked to get that vote out in their own way. Some people came and knocked on doors. Some people gave forms, did forms to educate and have people to understand why it was so. Everybody got involved. And so now, look at what we have. Through service, we have a new commitment in Washington, D.C., coming very soon. The nation gets stronger by the work that you do in the community. And that's what this service is all about. We're going to be talking because a soldier is one of the most visible persons that give service. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. But it's I want to keep everybody engaged, everybody involved. I was speaking with a young man. We're just going through current event things right now. I was speaking with a young man at the VA, and he was talking to me about the peer. Now, wherever you are in your community, call and ask the VA to direct you to their peer center. Here's where people volunteer, or some of the people work for the peer center, and their whole job is to work with veterans in a peer manner, where they can work with them as a peer through a recovery process, so things like that. I was talking to Long Beach, and that's where I go for treatment in part. And they actually have a coat giveaway coming up and a sleeping bag thing, giving away sleeping bags in the coming future and all of those things. So it's here again, it's just service. It's just people providing service. All of the people that you've seen on the Raymond Hall show that come and talk about all these different kind of things, we would love to have your financial support to make a donation that the program can continue and expand. But thus far, we have paid for the Raymond Hall show out of my back pocket because it's that important to me. It's important to me for people to understand that your big house has nothing to do with your service. Your pretty car has nothing to do with your service. Your hoopty has nothing to do with your service. Your big job has nothing to do with your service. Your state of no employment at this time has nothing to do with your service. I can serve in spite of. Service is opening a door. Service is letting someone go first if you see that they have a challenge and maybe will have a little bit better day if they went before you. Service is having an understanding that somebody provides service, so now you are where you are, so it is incumbent of you to provide service so someone else will be able to be a benefactor. If you want to understand the might of the nation, look to her armament. Guns, bombs, planes, subs. But if you want to understand the service, the strength of the nation, look to those who provide service. We know that under President Bush, 41, we went into some countries with our armament. That's a different conversation. But it required service in order for us to be able to have the kind of armament to defend this nation and to be able to ensure liberties or freedoms for others. That requires service. So our vision is that people will pick up the mantle or the banner of service and say, I will do what I can to make sure that my service counts. And your service counts if it benefits someone else. So all through the show today, we're talking about those people that have given service, those people of earlier periods, the African Americans who served in World War I under horrific conditions. What you see now, what you're looking at, those are persons who served, African Americans who served in World War I, and they had to serve through such degrading conditions. But what they said was, I will continue to serve. When you read stories of the soldiers who served during World War I, they said that the discrimination was not the first thing on their mind. The thing that was on their mind was that they were Americans and they were going to serve in defense of their nation. And through that spirit of service, it changed the mindset of some, and it didn't change overnight because we had World War II and it was still discrimination going on. The Marine Corps was the last branch of service to integrate its branch, and prior to, all black Marines went to Montford Point. But let the Marine Corps tell the story of Montford Point today, you'll hear anything but that particular fact. The service that these young men in this picture gave, who are World War I veterans, is on a equal playing plane with the service given by the 41st president. That's the beauty of service. Everybody's service count. They went to their grave not seeing the fruit of what their service would be. But I saw the fruit of what their service would be, because after the Marine Corps 1971 to 1973, I saw many changes. There were still some challenges, but I saw many changes. I never knew some of the things that they had to deal with all of their service life. Then you had Dory Miller. Dory Miller was one of the first American heroes of World War II when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Dory Miller actually saved the captain's, he protected the captain. The captain passed on, but he actually protected the captain and went to a machine gun. Now, this was a cook, because they only allowed African Americans to be in those service type jobs. He was a cook. And so he went to the machine gun and he shot down so many planes, and he was given the Navy Cross. You see it depicted in that. He was given the Navy Cross for his heroism and how his service did not include whether he himself was going to be killed or hurt. He did what he had to do. And because of that, many people today are able to do things. He dispelled rumors and myths about the black man in service, the African American in service to their courageousness, their ability to fight and defend. He dispelled all of those things to give us what we have today. When you have service, you're going to have a full life. I'm not saying everything is going to go your way. I'm not saying that you're going to be the king or queen on the hill, but you're going to have a full life. Dr. McNulty founded the Mia Imani Cancer Association. And they presented me with a plaque. And I've been given a number of things in my life, but that plaque, just somebody saying thank you for the little contribution that I did make, or this show did make. It wasn't just me. It was the show and the people that put on this show. That meant more to me than some of the things else that I've received, because someone said, thank you for your service. The Raymond Hall Show, A Different Conversation, they didn't just say, thank you for your service, if you understand. They said, through demonstration, thank you for your service. So it's two types or two sides to the coin when it comes to service. Give service and then be thankful for the service that's been given to you. I can find 1,000 reasons to come on the Raymond Hall Show and say, this is the Raymond Hall Show. This is where we're going to cuss, fuss, and complain. But you look around, everybody, if they want to, can cuss, fuss, and complain. But also look around, everyone's going to see service and gratefulness that someone has served. So they're going to see you either way, cussing, fussing, or complaining, or serving and being thankful for the service. I would not be here today if it were not for Mr. Johnny Morris encouraging me. When he spoke to me, you'd think that I talk all the time naturally. I was just so nervous I didn't know what to do. But here is this professional, this patriarch of the industry, speaking to me and encouraging me, and it meant the world to me at the time that he did it. So I'm grateful. We're going to be doing some things coming in 2019. We're going to be working closer with community collaborators, because we want everybody to have a chance to talk about what service they're providing. Our email address is the Raymond Hall Show 061@gmail.com. If you have ideas or if you're giving service, make sure you send us an email. You can follow this show. We're streaming on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter, and I don't know all of the other things you do. I mean, I won't say it so much. I'm just going to say I don't know it all. So I want to thank those persons that helped me so much. We still have a couple of weeks in this year, but Mr. Derek Williams, Dr. Bradshaw, Dr. McNulty, Dr. Randolph, right here in the studio, the technicians, and Felicia Morris, the owner. it's a lot of people giving service. You just have to turn around and take a look at it. And you have to see if someone else can give service and make a difference, then so can you and I. Okay? I want to impress upon you that your life is yours to live, but make sure in the life that you live that you have something that you are willing to give. It's going to affect the quality of your life. Now, we know we got some issues. I'm trying to stay calm today. This mess that's going on down there in North Carolina, where some guy was picking up people's ballots and playing with people's ballots, and that's been, they said that's his job. He's been doing that for years. Okay, and the people that he do it for always win because he's been stealing ballots. Now, I'm not going to get partisan about it, but it's interesting that the Republicans have been running around here talking about somebody doing something with ballots, and they the ones that's doing something with the ballots. But you know what got them caught up? Somebody doing service. Somebody said, hey, wait a minute, my ballot I turned in, it didn't count. And people started figuring out, hey, wait a minute, the things they're doing, they wasn't supposed to be doing in the first place. Another report talked about police brutality overall has dropped 60%, yet it has significantly increased with African Americans. It's a different conversation. All of this stuff is going to require our attention and service. Take a chair. And a person can only sit in one chair at a time. Here's the chairs. No education is one chair. Prison is another chair. College or trade is another chair. Successful life is one chair. But depending on where you are in your life, you're going to sit in one of those chairs. See, by design, no education, poor behavior will send you to a seat of penitentiaries and foolishness. But service says, son, let me help you with that homework. Son, why you not paying attention to school? Let me help you before you get too far gone. Because it's not really all on you. It's by design. Prisons are designed. Didn't nobody wake up and say, oh, let me build a whole bunch of prisons. No, it was by design. It was by calculation. It was by let us direct policies, laws, all kinds of things that's going to knowingly fill these prisons. Well, we got to say knowingly, no, you're not. Service. Either you're going to give service or someone's going to give service for you. And if they give service for you, the service they give is going to benefit them, not benefit you. Here's a president that gave service that benefited all. Clean Air Act, Americans with Disabilities Act, NAFTA, reunification of Germany. We have to provide service. Okay? So we want to tell you thank you for joining us. We want to also mention that we lost a giant in the community. I just saw it over my email sometime soon. Miss Jones at Healthy African American Families too. They've been on this show earlier. Her mother passed, and her mother was one of the matriarchs of the community in so many ways in addressing issues. She took up the banner of addressing the issue of homeless veterans in the community, and her work produced fruit to the point that the VA here at West LA started coming down and having collaborative efforts with Healthy African American Families too, because of the work she did. So we want to thank her for her service. We want to thank, also we want to mention and thank Supervisor Mark Wrigley Thomas. We understand that he's going to be terming out as supervisor. I don't know when that date is, but we're fully supportive of him because he has been working in the community to secure employment, housing, fair treatment. He's addressed so many issues and continue to address it. Now, I'm not getting into the political thing. I'm just saying to you that the community is in a better place because of his service to the community. So, to our supporters, family, and friends, to those who come to listen to us, we don't sell a thing. It's something that's vitally important. 18 years ago, I had a heart transplant. After the transplant, I went to open back up my little company and, okay, I'm healthy now. I'm going to make money. I was miserable. And I was miserable because I didn't have any service. I had a vision to grow my company. I had a vision to market and develop a certain software concept that I had developed. And then it dawned on me, the preamble. It says in part that in order to form a more perfect union, in other words, they didn't form the perfect union. They said that we are required to form a more perfect union. And how we do that is through service. So I could continue in that life run of running after a dollar bill and running after this and running after that. Or I could say, you know something, I have a chance to make a difference in my life with this transplant, and let me commit myself to making a difference. Am I a perfect man? Absolutely not. Do I still make mistakes? Yes, I do. But I can't sit down. I can't lay down. I have to get up, keep moving, keep focused, and have an understanding that there is someone that may hear something that would be a benefit to them. With that thought, we're going to say goodnight. We will be here next week at our regular time, 2 o'clock. And we want to thank you for tuning in to the Raymond Hall Show. Remember, service is a different conversation. Have a conversation through service. Thank you so very much, and have a good night.